Hello, welcome back. 2 guests to go. Thank you so far to Twinny. Thank you to Salema Masakela, Hunter Hayes, and Kaylee Housewright from Anthem of Hope. I really enjoyed all 4 conversations so far. We've got 2 good ones ahead. Tanya, I almost said Tanya Instagram, that is her handle. Tanya Ingram is up next, and then we will finish up with John Foreman from Switchfoot. Just want to remind you guys, we are here because it's World Suicide Prevention Day. We are honoring and celebrating our Worth Living For campaign. And the goal of this campaign is to raise $250,000. That money will translate to 3,500 individual counseling sessions and 45,000 searches using the Find Help tool on our website, TWLOHA.com. Today's the day. Today's World Suicide Prevention Day, but it's not too late for you to get involved. If you want to buy the t-shirt that I'm wearing, that's found within our World Suicide Prevention Day pack. If you want to donate, if you want to become a fundraiser, if you want to donate to try to win a soccer jersey from Ashlyn Harris or Ali Krieger from the U.S. Women's National Team, or a signed contest jersey from professional surfer Caroline Marks, you can find that elsewhere on our Instagram. So there's a whole bunch of ways to participate, a lot of good stuff happening. But personally, I'm honored to get to go live for 3 hours this afternoon and to talk to a bunch of friends of the organization and to have important conversations about mental health and suicide prevention. And with that, I'm going to bring on Tanya Ingram, who I know is already here.
Hi!
This is awesome.
It's awesome. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Awesome.
Thank you for wearing that shirt. We have our same shirt on.
Yay!
Hey, so I had a funny moment when I first went live two hours ago. Right when I pressed the button, I realized I had the wrong shirt on. And so I had to bail out and get mine out of the dryer and then come back. I have to do something awkward, which is I have to type a comment and pin it.
Okay.
And Chad, thank you for reminding me. But if you want to tell us who you are, where you are, how you're doing today, that'll give me time to type.
No problem. Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya Ingram. I am a poet. I live in Los Angeles, California. I'm doing okay today. Physically, I don't feel my best. Mentally, I'm doing okay. But I'm happy to be here.
I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah,
feel free to talk about other things.
I just had a birthday. My birthday was September 1st. I'm 29.
Wait,
I was 13.
If I didn't already say it, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
How was that birthday?
It was perfect. I thought it was going to be pretty lame because everyone's in quarantine, but I had a couple of friends over and we social distance, and they brought me a piñata.
Yes.
And we named the piñata 2020, and I was able to relieve some stress. So it was really nice. It was really beautiful, and we got cake. My friend made jollof rice, which is like a Ghanaian West African dish, and it was beautiful. It was great.
Oh wow, I'm so glad you had a good birthday.
Thank you.
I'm gonna take a sip of water. You know what's funny was I saw this was my idea. I was like, well, I'll just go live for hours, and it's kind of exhausting.
It's exhausting. I just did a Support Black Poetry campaign series for 2 weeks, and I did a live with my friends every day of the week, and
wow.
It's a job.
Because I even played it down to my sister. I was like, oh, I mostly listen. I just ask questions. And then I was like, I'm getting tired. But I'm so happy to get to talk to you. And thank you for saying yes. Thank you for wanting to do this. We have done this before. I feel like we did it maybe early on in the pandemic. Time just runs together. But I wonder what this year, through the lens of mental health, just what this year has been like for you.
That's a great question. This year mentally has been a lot about finding balance for me. I started therapy just at around the start of the pandemic. So thankfully, like that's been helping me realize a lot about myself, how my depression shows up, ways that I can prevent it. And so I'm learning how to be patient with myself. I feel like I tell others to be patient with themselves all of the time, but I'm not the best at receiving and taking and practicing my own advice. So I feel like this time has been that challenge for me of really believing in self-care for myself and putting myself first, and being okay with not being okay, and not just saying that, but like actually living that.
Hmm. And I know that you've been battling challenges related to your physical health. You've been really open and honest for years, obviously in your poetry, but beyond that, just talking about mental health. And then you add a pandemic and a moment of reckoning as it relates to racial injustice. And I wonder, how do you make sense? And not just for like a day or a week, but for months. Like, how have you been balancing all of that?
Mm, a literal day to day just examination of where I'm at. Um, Not watching the news when I can't handle it, checking in with people when I can articulate that, staying in bed most of the time and being okay with that too.
Yeah.
Crying, being angry, being very confused. But even like in the midst of all of that, still having some kind of hope, um, that while the world feels like it's literally on fire right now, that there is something to look forward to. And so that's been like keeping me. But it's been a lot of just, okay, I'm waking up today, what can I handle, taking my temperature, and kind of going forth from there.
Yeah. What you mentioned staying in bed and giving yourself permission. I wonder, and we could call this self-care. It's up, you can call it that or not, but I wonder, are there other rhythms or things that you figured out have felt good and have been helpful this year?
Watching RuPaul's Drag Race has been very, 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 very helpful for me, and it's the only thing I've been watching. Usually, I feel like during this time it's hard for me to like want to watch like any movies. I just am not in the mood. But that show and just the joy that it brings, it has been my like constant. Hanging out with my cats who are somewhere in the background. I think pet therapy is
Yeah.
amazing. So hanging out with them and still finding time to connect with people. I think it's really easy for me, like because I'm already isolated, to just kind of further like crawl into a dark space. So I try my best to reach out as much as I can, or let people know how I'm doing, and to my surprise being met that people are also feeling the same way I'm feeling. So there's even community in that. So it's
Yeah.
been, yeah, it's been good.
And then I know, as someone who is not only creative but makes a living being creative, have you felt inspired? Have you felt pressure to create or to do enough? What has that been like?
All of that. So I've been like deeply inspired, but also I feel so much pressure. I'm supposed to be writing a book right now, but like I'm just so stimulated by life and like what's happening. I feel like I want to experience this so that I can have more to write about. So I'm giving myself the time to like not create, and know that when it's time, it'll emerge.
Yeah. I want to back up if it's okay, and I feel like I've asked almost everyone this today, but when did mental health kind of show up on your radar? Like, when did you become aware of this, and when did this become important to you?
Um, for a while, I will say college. So when I was at NYU, that's when a lot of my depression was showing up before it was diagnosed. Um, and I was actually like inspired by To Write Love in Her Arms. I was trying to get a chapter to NYU during that time, and just seeing the work that y'all were doing and the way that you articulated what I was going through, like really just inspired me. And so like years later, I had a really bad bout of suicidal ideation, and I was in a psychiatric hospital for a 72-hour hold. And it was that time being there with others, and just realizing, yeah, just that was just like a really low point in my life where I wanted to like not be alive, and so examining myself in that moment and realizing just how serious and real it is made me just want to use my voice and my story to like let others know like that they're not alone. And yeah, like that's just not like a thing we say, but that it holds weight.
Yeah. Are you open to taking a couple questions from people?
For sure, yeah.
Cool. So I want to remind you guys watching, if you have a question for Tanya, use the question mark box at the bottom of the screen, and we'll definitely get to a couple of those. What about how do you relate to poetry? I mean, obviously you're so gifted, and it's so clear that you were born not only to do this, but you were born to write and to perform these poems. But I wonder, how does that relate to your mental health at this point?
It's like what they're married. When I first started poetry, a lot of my work was really geared towards what was happening in my home life. Really, a lot of it was very social justice oriented, and it still is. But I recognize now it's all about my mental health, and that too is, in a sense, a social justice, you know, experience. But yeah, it's in everything I do. I recognize it always has, and now I have the tools to really articulate that and see that it's hopefully helpful for others.
I love that. I'm gonna glance at the questions. You guys are welcome to keep them coming. Oh, here's a good one. Here's a fun one to start with. Who inspires you?
Ooh, music is a huge inspiration for my poetry and movies. So, Nina Simone's voice, anything that I hear from her really inspires me to write. My favorite is Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. Like, that's a song that really gets me going. Certain scenes from different movies are really inspiring to me. There's a scene in The Master between Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it's so powerful. And it just, the emotion that I feel from two people who are nothing like me, I feel like that speaks to what poetry is and what I'm able to do. So yeah, I get it from music.
So I don't know if you caught it, but Joaquin's sister Rain was watching the previous live, and she commented. So that's how small the world is.
That's amazing.
And she's probably within a few miles of where you are right now.
Oh, that's great. That makes me happy.
Let's see. There's a couple others. Here's one, and I might add on, but my hunch is this person's talking about mental health. And have you had friends or family not understand?
Yes and no. So I have a history, well, my family has history of bipolar disorder, and so my family's really aware of how that shows up. However, they don't understand ways that it needs to be tended, like that person needs to be tended to. And so yeah, I see it a lot within my home community, and then sometimes still within the Black community, there is still some stigma that is alive. And so yeah, I see it.
This is a big one, but I wonder, and I think you've already talked about like being aware of what you can handle in terms of the news, but with racial injustice being so front and center this year, I wonder, are you hopeful? Has that been, I imagine that's been a really like a mixed bag and a roller coaster, but I wonder just maybe as it relates to your mental health or kind of to this elusive idea of hope in general, just sort of some of your feelings about that.
I feel like I have no choice but to be hopeful because it's just so like bizarre, like the amount of death. Like I just feel like I'm at rock bottom, that there can only be hope from here. And that's a hard thing to deal with every day. It's overwhelming. I feel like I'm sometimes numb to it because of how frequent it is. And so that really triggered like my mental health during this quarantine season. Not so much COVID at the time, because I feel like I'm really used to being alone anyway. But the uprisings like that really weighed on me. And I went to several of the protests in LA, and being just surrounded by like people for the same cause was just so beautiful. And so I see hope in that, that we can get things done. We can get to a day that's just way better than this. And so
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so good. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see. When questions are long, the words get really small.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, how about this? Have you ever thrown away or scrapped a poem and then regretted it? And I would maybe add or circled back to it.
Huh. That's a great question. Have you ever thrown away or scrapped a poem?
I just hope you could find it again.
Yeah, I feel like no, but I've had a poem that I've written that I never wanted to share with the world. And I did after being influenced by a coach, and the response was way more rewarding than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So it almost was a poem that got scrapped because I wasn't going to share it with anyone. It would just been mine.
I'm getting really good at blocking people who are mean.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I saw a lot of it. I was trying to not
So, yeah.
comment.
If you're mean, you will be blocked. It's that simple. Let's see. All right, there's a few others. Let's see. Dun, dun. All right, here's one more easy one, and then I'll bounce back to some of my own.
Okay. My favorite food. Okay, lately it's been this pork chops with the cranberry sauce on top of it.
Oh,
with
wow.
like gold Yukon potatoes and broccolini.
I love that answer.
Yeah, I want that right now. Yeah,
That's so good. So this is a giant transition coming from something fun to something heavy, but this is one I've asked, I think maybe everyone today, but we kind of touched on mental health. We touched on self-care. I wonder, is suicide something that has touched your life personally?
Yes. So my own experience with ideation, which led me to the hospital and was a really tough time. But also recently, my youngest sibling mentioned wanting to do that, and that really struck a chord with me. Just because I never want her to ever like think in those terms or get to a place that dark, and knowing that I've been there, like I don't want her to go there, and so that was really really hard for me, and it makes the work that much more like real and like more. It just makes it more closer to home, and so yeah. I hold her in my thoughts a lot, especially during this season.
Yeah. I remember when I first met you and watched you perform, I was so struck by, I feel like when I met you, you're quiet and soft spoken, and then when you perform, when you're on stage, you're such a powerhouse. And I wonder, did that come naturally? Was that a process? Like what that has been like for you?
It came naturally, and I think it's because I know how introverted I am in person, how soft spoken I am. I felt like I can get my power back on stage, or when I'm reading a poem, I feel undeniable when I'm telling my story, because I know where I'm coming from with it. And so I'm always like trying to figure out how I can blend that into my everyday life, and I'm still learning. But yeah, I just feel like I'm in my purpose when I'm and
Yeah.
no one can tell me anything about myself.
I feel like one of my favorite things, and it totally goes back to Heavy and Light, but is watching other artists discover you. And I love how much John Foreman has become a fan, and Propaganda has become a fan. I feel like that first night, didn't John like? I feel like he gave you some advice, like you never have to apologize.
Yeah, and I've taken that advice since then. Yeah, he told me. I think I said I was thanking the audience, and I was saying, okay, I'm gonna get out of your way. And he said, never say that. Like, take your time on stage, and never apologize for being there. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I love that those guys are, because there's kind of this Heavy and Light alumni. For those that don't know, Heavy and Light is our typically annual event. I say favorite night of the year, and it's primarily music, but poetry and speaking, and it's meant to be this hopeful night that points to resources. And so we kind of have this alumni, over the years, and so it's been really neat to. I think it's cool because it's putting poets like yourself around. My printer is printing now for no reason. Um,
I know.
I'm trying to stop it. No, but I feel like it's one of those things of like worlds collide, bringing people from different circles. And Anise has talked about that, and I love that. But I love that they have become fans of you. What have those nights been like for you?
They've been magical. My first concert ever was Switchfoot and Reliant K when I was like in high school. So to be able to share a stage with John Foreman is
Yeah,
mind blowing. And so yeah, they each one has been different and has meant something super special to me, or really spoke to an area of my life that I was struggling to at the time. So I feel like I always got something from being there. And yeah, and just the people who show up and the stories that I hear from those in the audience, like that's been like my favorite part. And yeah,
yeah,
I've met so many great people.
that's so cool. Morgan Harper Nichols and her sister Jamie Grace, they came to speak. I think it was maybe last year, and um, they just came to speak for a few minutes, and they ended up singing with John, and I know that was like such a dream come true for them.
That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
Morgan. She's great.
So I want to ask you about the campaign, and I feel like it's a bunch of years that clearly we've been on your radar, and also that you've been able to participate. And I wonder, maybe before we get to this year, just what that's been like sort of this relationship and partnership over the years, what it's been like for you.
It's meant so much to me, especially because I um, really needed to write Love in Her Arms when I was in college.
Yes,
This is
that's a
Jackson.
oh nice.
Um, and to see just like, I remember, I think I told you this before, but when I was at NYU, I remember seeing you walk down or
That's
past the
so
Salvation Army. You were just walking, and I didn't know you, and I was just in college. And I said hello, and I thanked you for To Write Love in Her Arms, and you were very gracious, and you kept walking. And so from that moment till now, to like see the friendship kind of grow over the years, the partnership,
yeah,
it's like so beautiful and special, and
that's
I'm
so cool.
incredibly grateful.
I love it. It's a two-way street. I lived at 14th and 3rd, right by Union Square. So I lived in the NYU neck of the woods, and I mean, it's like so wild that the world could be that small.
That's mom, yeah.
And then I want to ask about this year's campaign, Worth Living For, the shirt we both have on, and just how you relate to this phrase. The phrase actually came from another poet, Levi the poet, and maybe some of what makes up your list. If we've been asking people or inviting people to finish the sentence, I'm living for, and I wonder if we could hear from you.
Yeah. I loved what was it Kaylee who was on before.
Yeah,
So I had the same thing where I went to like make my list. I couldn't think of anything. I was trying to be clever. I didn't want
yeah,
to be, and I just left it. Um, because I'm still thinking about truly what do I want to like live for. And for me, the obvious answer is I want to live for a kidney transplant. I want to see my family do well. I want to see myself in love. Like all of these things that are always on my list and I'm always praying about or thinking about. But I think ultimately, at least this season in my life, I love what Kaylee said. I'm worth living for.
Mm.
Um, and like being in the position that I am health wise, like life really took a different like meaning for me after I was diagnosed. And this year I finally feel like I'm understanding what it means to like live for myself, because like my life truly depends on it. Um, and yeah, I'm worth living for.
Yeah.
I know it's very simple. It feels understated, but it means so much to me, especially as someone who's always struggling, always thinking about the next person, and always putting myself last. I wanna do the opposite. So.
No, I love that that Kaylee shared that, and that you related to it, because and I think especially for a poet or a writer, it's tempting to want to be clever and epic and beautiful, and certainly it's awesome. But there is something so simple and, as you said, understated, but so important. The idea that if our list can even start with me, like I'm enough, and then we can hopefully add a bunch of good stuff beyond that. Yeah. Well, Tanya, thank you so much for showing back up, and thank you for saying hi on the street all those years ago.
Yes.
Wait, what's your kitty's name?
This is Jackson.
And who's the other one?
Oh, Curtis, and he's on the couch like an old man, and they make up Curtis Jackson.
That's awesome.
But thank you for having me, Jamie. It's always an honor.
Oh, likewise. We're honored to have you, and obviously it's our biggest day. So thank you for being a part of it with us, and I'm sure we'll see you before too long.
Yes.
Well, I do want to ask, how can people support you? How can they find your work?
You can support me best by going to my website, which is tanyaingram.com. There you can find my latest book, things I'm working on next. But yeah, tanyaingram.com will have everything.
How many books are we up to now?
We're up to the 3rd book, working on the 4th.
So good. So people can buy 3 books and soon a 4th book.
And soon a 4th book. Yes.
Love it. Well, hey, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye, Tanya. So I'm going to end this one, and we are going to come back with John Foreman to close this thing out.